There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics. I am your host, The Church of Failure, and with me as always is my trusty co-host, who's not dying as horribly as he was yesterday, Ayrton McCartney.
Yesterday was pretty bad.
Well, how are you doing today, buddy?
Much better. I'm still hacking up some phlegm, so I will be muting myself intermediately to do that. But other than that, I'm feeling a lot better.
All right. Well, it's what's the what's the donation threshold to get the phlegm lime on camera?
$20.
Yeah, good luck with that. I don't think your phlegm's worth $20.
Hey, shoot high. I'm willing to negotiate a little bit.
Shoot for the moon. You might still land within the stars. That kind of thing.
Yeah, which is such a dumb saying. If you think about it.
Well, yeah, stars are,
I mean,
gaseous
the stars
bodies.
are another, and they're another several million light years away. So you really won't land, you can't really land in the stars because, they're not really, close to each other, right? And you'll burn up and die.
You must be so much fun at parties. I mean, you just seem to be able to take the fun out of everything.
I mean, but I'm entertaining.
I mean, you are that. So, we're here, I guess, ladies and gentlemen, who actually showed up for this clusterfuck to finish up talking about Watchmen. 6 books remain, and again, I feel like this is another example of one of those books that just kind of kicks into high gear in the second half. Maybe it's because more action sequences start happening. I don't really notice that the verbiage per issue gets lower per se. I don't think the quality
there's less
of the
narration.
issues,
It seems.
Yeah, I don't think that the quality of the issues get any worse by any means, but and just kind of flipping back through issue 7. I mean, there's 10 pages almost in a row that are just covered in word balloons.
Yeah.
But then there's just as many pages
to look at.
Yeah, there's just as many pages that have maybe 1 or 2 word balloons on them. So.
Yeah. Yeah, still is wordy, but definitely moves more.
Right. So let's go ahead and get that.
But if you think about it, the fact that the climax of this story is still another 6 issues.
Right.
It's really not moving any faster.
Well, I like to think that it feels like it is.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it.
And this has got to be one of my favorite covers as well. Because it's the first panel of the book, first and foremost, but it's the night owl goggles with the reflection of Archimedes in them.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that's just an amazing image. Like, someone took the time to draw that. Like, they drew the mirror image of the spaceship, or of the airship, in the goggles, and they used that as the introductory frame for the book. I like it. It just makes me happy.
Yeah.
So, in this book, picking up where we left off, Lori has left Dr. Manhattan. She's left John. He's gone to Mars. She's staying
he fucked right off to Mars.
She's staying with
to
Dan Dryberg.
Build sandcastles.
No shit. I mean, they're at least intricate sandcastles.
They're intricate.
She's staying with Dan Dryberg. And right now she's gone downstairs into the owl cave and is fucking around with shit that she had no business fucking around with.
Just like a woman.
But anyway, you kind of get through this and you realize that, she sits down, she puts a cigarette in her mouth or, a meth pipe, however you want to take it. And she
Yeah,
hits
it still
the,
looks like a meth pipe to me.
she hits the, what she assumes is the lighter function in the control panel and turns out to
Because
be a flamethrower.
remember, well, so for any younger viewers that might be watching this, cars used to have cigarette lighters built into them.
Yeah,
You
that
would
little
press
hole,
down on them, and they
that
would heat
little
up,
hole, the weird
and then they would
charger
pop back up.
yeah, the little hole that you plug your charger into to charge your cell phone in the console of the older vehicle.
Yes.
That actually used to hold a lighter, so you could light your cigarettes while you were driving, with your kids in the back seat who weren't wearing seatbelts.
And you would have an ashtray on the driver's door or in the center console, one of the two.
That little area that's constantly filled with change. That was for cigarette ash.
I had a BMW once that actually had like a cigar holder built into one of the doors.
Oh, that's fantastic.
With the ashtray on the door right above it.
That is pretty golden. I do appreciate that.
Or at least I assume that it's what it was for, just based off the size and the placement and like the, with where it was in relation to the ashtray. But
I don't like to think about what else
believe me,
it could have
I
been.
kept yeah. I mean, I did keep cigars in there occasionally.
So, but yeah, she sets the flamethrower off in the in the Archimedes airship, and basically sets the underground area on fire. But you've been watching the movie today. This is again almost sequence for sequence what happens in the movie.
Yeah, except in the movie, she wasn't trying to light a cigarette. She just kind of presses the button just because, like, I don't know, it's shiny and it's lighting up.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really give a good reason for her to press the button in the movie.
That's one of the major differences, I think, is that there's no smoking, and, like, at least not as much smoking in the movie.
Yeah, you have, like, the comedian is still smoking his cigars all the time. And I think the government officer who takes Lori into custody after Dr. Manhattan goes to Mars, like, offers her a cigarette.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it.
Her mom smokes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, her mom.
So Dan's restocking the sugar cubes and start to hear some commotion. And then he remembers, Rorschach's warning that someone's offing costumed heroes. And he races down and realizes that everything's just on fire. So he grabs a fire extinguisher, puts everything out, turns Archimedes off. They have a little bit of reflection on the old days, and he talks about his costume. I don't know. It's very personal, and again, it's very on the nose with how it went down in the movie.
Yeah.
So if you've seen the movie, again, you've seen this exchange, but I like that.
It's very.
Go ahead.
It's very, like, character building. Like, we really start to kind of see more of these, like, kind of get a deeper dive into these two, like, as characters.
Right.
Really,
and they kind of
get whole sequence.
Well, they get into their reasonings as well as to why they dressed up and did all of these things. But Dan, like usual, is just like, we're gonna try and we're just gonna go back upstairs and forget about all of this. But first, he lets her try on the goggles, and then get this feeling of dejectedness or whatever. And they turn the TV on, and everybody's like exclaiming about Rorschach. They're finding out that Rorschach's locked up, enjoying coffee, and eventually they start to get intimate. So, I I do believe we have a communion chat here. That's what we should call it, the communion chat. This show is greater than 95% of all other shows on YouTube. This is an indisputable fact of life. I am definitely 100% on board with that, Captain Weeb. Thank you for that. Church, Ayrton just wanted to say thank you for everything. Make it happen for tomorrow if you can. Yeah, there we go. Gilly in chat. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, we definitely can.
And we'll get a spot on a video that we can put up later in the week. Just make Ayrton work some more. But
maybe if Gilbert would be so kind as to send me the file for the theme song, I can cut that in for that video.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah,
but
we'll talk to him tomorrow.
Absolutely. But thanks again, Captain Weeb. Looking back at Watchmen, Dan has how do you say, performance anxiety. Can't quite make everything happen, and is tucked in by his lady friend. And then he has this really fucked up dream where they embrace one another. It's an ex crush that he used to have. Oh yeah, man, we got to get you on, Captain Weeb. Whenever you want to, man, just let us know. We'll have to figure out what it's about. We were gonna get it this a few times already, and shit just keeps coming up. But we definitely still want to do it.
Yeah.
So, this is some kind of former crush that Dan Dryberg has, and he's embracing her, and then they get down to being naked, and then pull off each other's skin to reveal a costume Silk Spectre and Night Owl. It's a very interesting sequence, and it's done
it's
all
really
without
weird.
words. So I really do kind of enjoy that, and it's pretty textbooks about how they do a lot of the storytelling in this book. As much exposition as you get, like stuff like this, and then you get Dan waking up to go downstairs and check out the equipment and everything, and Lori wakes up and starts to go after him, and he's just like, yeah, I can't sleep, and I feel impotent unless I'm in my costume. I did it because it makes me feel powerful. So they suit up, and he's like, let's just take the bird out for a while. We'll see what we can get into. And they save a building full of people that, the building's on fire. And they get this whole
I do
rush.
need to point out.
Yeah, go ahead.
On his owl costume, he does have a belt of pouches.
He does have a belt of pouches. But Batman had a belt of pouches. A belt of pouches is acceptable. A leg belt of pouches, not so much.
I don't know.
But
I mean, it's still pouches either way.
My favorite part is that the Archimedes has a watering hose coming out of the bottom of it, like the owl's peeing on the fire.
My favorite part is the little girl that asks her mom, "Is that man in the spaceship Jesus?"
Yes, but they save everyone, and then
whatever she says.
Then they get intimate in costume, and Dan is able to complete the deed, and he's like, I feel like we have a certain obligation to our fraternity, and we should go spring Rorschach. And she's like, what? So, they get it on, but only in costume, because that's the only way he can get it up. Which, I mean, to each their own.
Yeah.
But
whatever you got to do.
I think it's more of the commentary to the whole superhero fascination. This is a fantasy of what we want to be. This is, that's the kind of person that we desire, and that kind of thing. Because it's very Alan Moore to do, is to make a commentary out of, an entire genre, and then write a 12-issue series that ends up with a giant tentacle space monster.
I mean, isn't that all of his works?
I mean, that's just it's the course that we're on. So then we have
The good.
yeah. In the final scene, we have like an excerpt from a journal that Dan Dryberg supposedly wrote, and this is some more of the auxiliary material that just adds to the story.
Yeah.
This one's not as exciting as some of the other ones. It's kind of a deep study on the owl, but you can kind of see where he's, I don't know, almost comparing.
A little bit crazy.
Yeah. He's comparing the owl to, maybe not even comparing, but like, you can see where he's drawing a correlation between his antics and the actual owl, and romanticizing the idea of the owl. It's kind of strange, but again,
owls are cool.
Owls are cool, and leave it to a guy who dresses up like one to point that out for everyone.
Have you ever been like up close, like face to face with an owl? It's pretty exhilarating.
Is it?
Well, yeah, because you're like, you could rip
before.
my throat out right now, little buddy, but you're not going to, are you?
But I don't know. It's all in all, it's a good middling issue. I don't feel like this is one of the more unnecessary. Well, I wouldn't want to say unnecessary, because it gives you the shift between Dan Dryberg and Laurie and their relationship and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
But as far as the overall story arc goes, this just kind of sets them on the path to free Rorschach.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good transition issue from the first half of the story to the second half, I would say.
Right. Well, it's them getting back in the saddle. I guess that's probably one of the more important parts. So.
Yeah.
And then you open back up on Hollis Mason. Let's see. Get that one pulled up. You could have said something. That would have been great.
Sorry.
Really appreciate you jumping in there.
My dog was making noise and looked like she was getting into something.
Well, I mean, that's what dogs do.
Yeah. But she's supposed to be sleeping right now.
No.
Anyways.
Well, and now, okay, there we go. I was about to say, and now my computer is wanting to freeze up. What the fuck? But it's okay.
Oh, of course.
I got it. It's all good. So, issue 8 opens up with Hollis Mason, and again you get kind of that similar pattern of the cover is part of the opening scene, although not as closely as the last cover.
Yeah, it's kind of like a zoomed in, extreme close up of the first opening scene.
Right. But it's a conversation between Hollis Mason and Sally Jupiter, the first Silk Spectre. And this, I'm not really sure what the point of the exchange is. They're talking about the Rorschach thing. There's wait, where am I? Oh yeah. Or not the Rorschach thing. I'm sorry. That was another part.
No, about Dan and Laurie saving the people from that burning building.
Yeah. So.
And
yeah,
it's kind of. It was almost like them reminiscing, but not.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is they never show the two on camera except for their old superhero personas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you see like their hands holding the phone, and that's about
and
it.
their reflections, like you get a reflection of Hollis Mason, you get the back of Sally Jupiter's head.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, it's really weird.
you know, so and then you're shown that it's Halloween, and then we get cut back into another issue where you've got the Black Freighter cut in, and you're back at the newsstand. So they're talking about the Rorschach thing, the Dead Freighter stories going on in the background, and then you cut over to Dan and Lori again. So this book starts out and it's all over the place, just kind of jumping around. And it appears that they're setting up their plan to spring Rorschach. So in due course, you skip again.
Which
Go ahead.
which I will have to say, if I'm ever in prison, in like federal prison or something, I expect you to break me out using a owl-based airship.
Deal. I'm gonna have to recruit somebody from the Discord to
All
go
right.
with us. But you cut over to the jail where Rorschach's being held, and a few people, including what's his name, the big figure, is
Oh, the little guy. Yeah.
is harassing him,
Yeah.
and they say they're gonna get him, and there's nothing that Rorschach can do to stop it, and walk away. So you cut back over, and then there's a detective interviewing with Dan Dryberg. They're talking about Edward Blake's homicide, so that's still being investigated. These guys don't have these guys don't have any idea who killed Ed Blake at that point. They're searching through everything, just kind of ramshacking his house. Not
Yeah.
ramshacking, but just harassing the guy, fucking with his sugar.
What's up with the sugar?
Well, he only had the one cube for her coffee that one time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
This issue does jump around.
it just jumps around a
so
lot.
much.
Yeah. So they're putting out the I don't know, the front page of the New Frontiersman, and they're pasting up the storyboard or whatever, so you get the photos of the comedian and Rorschach and Night Owl. And you're first introduced to this kid. I don't know if it's the first time you're introduced to him, but this is the kid that Seymour, I believe, who ends up publishing everything in the New Frontiersman that is left in Rorschach's journal at the end of the book. So this is one of your first interactions with him.
And then we get the first inkling that we might see some weird tentacle squid monsters.
Right. And that's somebody.
And I saw this and went like, oh god.
Uh-huh.
Because it looks like it has a butthole on its chest. Like, what the fuck? Doesn't it?
Most people call that a navel, Ayrton.
But like the shape of it and the way it like goes in, it looks like a butthole. Maybe I'm just scarred by Alan Moore, but
well, and you can see in the background that something's going on, but they're talking
it's like
about
a ship moving in and stuff.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about just shipyards and movie companies, and it just, you really kind of wonder why this segment takes place, except for the drawing, which I guess I should probably pull up so everybody could see, but it's just a Lovecraftian tentacle monster.
With a butthole on their stomach.
Oh my god, it's not a butthole.
Okay, everybody in the chat, tell me that does not look like a butthole.
Navels look like buttholes.
I'm expecting it to wink. Not really.
But
come on, do not expect it to wink at you.
I really don't. I don't expect buttholes to do that. But
I
you
mean,
cut over, you cut between Dan and Lori going back out to explore and bust out, or to adventure, as they call it, and bust out Rorschach. And then you cut over to a guy harassing the news guy, and him being saved by a lesbian, and some more of the black freighter, and then back to the prison. Like, this issue's just all over the place.
Yeah, it was
Butthole seems about accurate. Navels don't pucker.
Ha! Exactly. Thank you.
I'm so disappointed.
Thank you, Knox.
I'm so disappointed in Ayrton. But
did somebody say tentacle squid monster? That's what brought you in, Knox?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep. So you you get this whole, everything's jumping around so much, but basically they cut back to Rorschach, who is still getting harassed by Big Figure, and he's trapped all of Big Figure's goons that were trying to get to him in a way that ends up killing and harming and maiming them. And Rorschach just goes untouched. When they finally get his cell open, he just steps down over the two dead bodies and looks at Big Figure like, well, 2-0, your move. And Big Figure just runs the hell off. So, again, another scene that they just took and adapted directly to the movie. They did get a different style of actor, but I feel like it was fine.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. Like when Night Owl and Laurie find him, like he has his costume back already.
Right. But
that's about the only difference, really.
So, and I think the reason that his costume is a little bit different here, and the reason that it wouldn't have worked that way in the movie, is because of how much extra time and exposition they give you about the Doctor.
Yeah.
So, Walter goes to take care of Big Figure, and then, let's see here. They get back to Dryberg's place, and John just is sitting in the living room reading, and basically takes Lori with him. The police go to find out, that Dryberg has basically kept or freed Kovacs and Rorschach, whomever. And they make an escape in the Archimedes. And then you cut back to the Black Freighter. And then to some goons. And these goons...
really all over the place.
Yeah, these goons go to, harass Hollis Mason. And they kill him. Which I don't understand why that has to happen here. But, I mean, it's kind of a really shitty part of what's going on. But, they kill Hollis Mason, and, some trick-or-treaters show up and discover a dead body. And then you get that front page of the New Frontiersman mock-up in the back, which is pretty awesome, I think. But,
I like the little touches of, like, pieces of tape and, like, the razor
blades.
blade and paper clips and shit. Note that says photo to come.
Right. We'll pull that up. But yeah,
it's definitely really cool.
Yeah, the issue is
I will have to say, out out of all the like ending auxiliary stuff, that one's definitely probably the most interesting, like conceptually, I would say.
Right. Well, it's the Thursday Halloween 31st, or yeah, Thursday October Halloween 31st, Thursday October 31st, 1985 edition of the New Frontiersman, and some of the headlines include honor is like the hawk. Sometimes it must go hooded. Who the hell do they think they are? Ripped out guts, coked out commie cowards.
That's probably my favorite.
Missing writer, vanished person list grows as hunt called off. So, and then you cut into issue 9. So again, like, maybe that's why it seemed like it moved so much faster, because that issue itself just jumps so far all over the damn place.
Yeah,
But
that one was a little hard to follow what was going on, just because it jumped so much. Not saying it was bad. It was just there were parts of it that were a bit hard to follow, and probably out of
yeah,
all of them, probably my least favorite to actually read.
right. So the second or the ninth issue, not the second issue, the ninth issue comes up, and again, I have to go back and make sure that this isn't something that happens in all of them, but I feel like it is. Okay, yeah, it kind of is. Um, yeah, every issue, the cover, it just took me 6 issues in reviewing it to notice. But yeah, every cover kind of opens up with an alternate scene. Like every cover is the first panel of the book. That's just aces
Huh?
right there. So,
Huh?
um,
Didn't even like. I think I noticed it. It just didn't like click.
right.
If that makes sense.
But it's basically the point of view from Laurie's vision when John takes her into into Mars or whatever.
Yeah, and she starts dying, and he's like, "Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
I forgot that you need to breathe air."
and he gives her an oxygen field, and she's like, "Oh shit, I'm on Mars." And then there's this really deep debate about you know what what it means to be human, if human life is important. They touch back on, it's kind of a mirror to the issue in the first half of the book where he's reflecting on his own life. He does the same
Yeah,
thing with her life. And it cuts back to her mother and her mother's ex-husband, who you find out is not her father. And they talk about things, and you find out through the course of all this that she being met by the comedian later on in life wasn't inappropriate because he tried to sexually assault her mother so many years before. It was inappropriate
yeah.
because he's her father. And, you know, Sally can't, like, admit to it. Sally never told.
I
Go ahead.
I just want to point out the there is an unexpected pun made by Dr. Manhattan.
Go ahead.
Flipping back through this, he says, "Nor I, believe me, I fully understand the seriousness of our circumstances, the gravity of the situation," while he makes the weird Martian sandcastle flip.
Yeah.
That amused me.
So he
So
goes
Dr.
through this.
Manhattan has some comedic timing there.
Oh, yeah. But he goes through this whole explanation, and he explains that comedian is her father. She freaks the fuck out, throws a bottle of perfume against his, glass construct, which immediately starts to shatter and fall to pieces. And then it just starts this massive zoom out, and the construct has fallen exactly in the placement of where blood would have been on the smiley face pin. And there's a giant smiley face on the face of Mars. So it's just a callback to the comedian's button. But, this is just a deep heart to
Did you know
heart.
that's an actual did you know that's an actual structure on Mars?
What, the smiley face?
Yeah.
No.
There's actually a rock formation that kind of looks like a smiley face.
Interesting.
So I'll see if I can find it real quick.
They, they do a lot of just kind of exposition in this story, but it's a lot more linear than the previous issue. It doesn't jump from place to place to place. I mean, it does in the sense of jumping through Laurie's past and memories, but it doesn't. Laurie, I should say. I keep saying Laurie, but it's Laurie. It goes through her memories and her past and whatnot, but it doesn't jump around from like character arc to character arc. And it really serves to show that Dr. Manhattan still has some humanity. He does care in some regard. He just is out of touch. And, he basically agrees to take her back to Earth in this idea or whatever to basically help save the Earth from the oncoming threat, which I still don't believe he even understands what it is yet.
Which is weird because he's supposed to know everything, right?
Well, that's explained at the end of the book. Like, there's technology that's been developed to block his ability to see the future, so to speak.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But that takes us immediately into issue 10. Like, there's a piece of Sally Jupiter's scrapbook in the back. It's one of the more introductions, I think, but it just kind of serves to fill in the gaps as to how someone like her, with the issues that she had with the guy, kind of gets caught up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I just sent you. It's the Gallet crater on Mars.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It is located on the eastern rim of a huge impact basin, Argyr Planeta. It is named after the German astronomer Johann Gottfried Gallet. Gallet is known as the Happy Face Crater.
There it is.
So there you go.
So yeah, it's very strange.
According to Gibbons, who was the artist for the Watchmen, the similarity was almost too good to be true. I worried that if we put it in, people would not believe it. Speaking of adding it to the Watchmen comic books.
Yeah. But let's see here.
So, see, Alan Moore is a wizard.
He is. He is a wizard. So,
he made that smiley face appear just so he could put it in his book.
Now, one thing that I do kind of have to criticize a little bit about this, first off, it's not the art. I don't think we talked enough good about the art, but it's pretty fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, the art is incredible. I forget the guy's first name.
Dave Gibbons.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
He was just his line work and use of contrasting colors and stuff, especially in like the action set pieces is really incredible.
But one thing that does kind of bother me go ahead.
Well, real quick, we just got a message on Twitter from Good Job Rob saying you guys should absolutely trash the HBO adaptation whenever you get an opportunity. I feel like you guys know what makes The Watchmen enjoyable and will expertly articulate everything wrong with this newest woke diversion from the source material.
Well, I wasn't going to mention anything until we got there, but that is kind of why I'm breezing through this a little faster, because I do want at least a few minutes at the end of the show to talk about the white supremacy Watchmen adaptation. So,
but yeah,
we'll definitely do that, Rob. No worries.
I saw that one.
But yeah, so that's the crater in the book. Again, just really just the little nuances in this comic just make it so good. But
yeah,
let's see here. Issue number 10.
And it, like seriously, the details in the art, like the fact that smiley face is a real thing,
right,
on Mars, and like I don't know, it's pretty. Just all the little details I think are what make the art crazy, like all the stuff in the background, and because there's a bunch of Easter eggs hidden throughout this book, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Like if you really pay attention, you can find, like I've noticed a few things, not like a ton. So I kind of had a time crunch to finish reading this, but
well,
there's definitely a lot of like, foreshadowing Easter egg sort of things in the background that if you're paying attention, or if you already read it, going just back flipping through, you can notice more stuff. But anyways, continue.
Well, you get Rorschach basically showing up to pick up his costume. He has a spare, apparently. Then Rorschach finds that first off, you open up with Air Force One basically taking the president to the command center, and they're at DEFCON 2. World War III is basically on the precipice of erupting right now. Russia's invaded Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Which, for everybody that doesn't know, the lower the number on the DEFCON, the more of an emergency.
Right.
DEFCON 5 actually means, you can walk outside without sunscreen.
Yeah.
DEFCON 1 means there's a nuclear bomb heading our way. So just get that right, people.
But
anyways,
Rorschach decides that he needs to go pick up his mask and his suit and everything, and is encountered by his landlord, and she, she's confronted, asked why she lied about him, and you see that Rorschach has at least has a conscience when it comes to little kids, because he just lets it go and leaves her there bawling her eyes out, thinking she was probably about to get murdered. And then you jet back over to the Arctic island base of Adrian Veidt, and he's putting on his.
Why is it always the Arctic with these people?
They like the cold, but he's taken to his screen room where he's got several screens set up so that he can monitor certain things. And then you cut back over Rorschach and Dan, and they're trying to figure out everything that's going on. And they finally start to, break through with one another and admit that they're one another's friends, and they're going to be there for one another, even though it's kind of shitty for each of them. So it's a nice little aw moment.
Yeah.
And then again, out of nowhere, you get some more black freighter. And, you know, Rorschach, yeah,
I still never really got used to that
no,
when they would cut away to that. I
but
mean, it was cool. I liked how there was a difference in the art, like a noticeable difference in the art when you were going to that, but it still would throw me off every single time, at least for a second. Like, wait, what's going on?
let's see here. Uh, Alt-right Watchmen from Knox in the chat. Arcanus says, Rorschach fucking up the entire cell block with my favorite part of the movie. Just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it was definitely
Yeah,
something. He basically just spanked some royal ass. But after the brief cutaway, you get Rorschach basically walking back into a bar to get some information, and he breaks a glass in a guy's hand.
which I kind of want to know if you can do that.
Probably, if you're as strong as Rorschach
Like, if
is.
that, yeah. I'd like to know, do like a MythBusters type test on it. See how easy it would be, like what kind of glass you would have to break, you know, kind of get the physics behind it. It'd be interesting. So if
But,
somebody would like to volunteer their hand,
well, they,
$50 on Patreon a month, and you can come up here to Michigan, and we'll do a whole MythBusters test on breaking a glass in somebody else's hand.
I think for $50 we're going to give him your hand.
That's fair. Just don't like do anything weird with it.
Well, you go back and the entire island that was designing the giant brain monster thing is carting off on a yacht, and the entire yacht just blows the fuck up, right?
It's
So those people are out of the
Yeah, this
question.
is where it starts. This is where it starts to get weird and a lot more Alan Moore-ish, I think.
But the Night Owl and Rorschach end up in Vike's conference room to look for clues, and Dan eventually breaks into his to his fucking computer.
Sorry, I forgot. I just I like his Dan's little like snow owl like snowsuit,
Yeah,
and then Rorschach just in the background, just in his regular costume, just like what of it, bitch? Let's
right.
go.
But
Sorry, that part made me laugh.
well, it's at this point that you realize that Rorschach Journal has been dropped off to the New Frontiersman, and it just gets put in something that they call the crank file or whatever, the junk mail, and
Yeah.
you cut back and
What we would call spam in the email.
yeah, you jump
Era.
back and Night Owl and Rorschach are on their way to the Arctic to confront Vike after discovering that he was behind the list and the cover up and the cancer and all that shit. Like they're finally figuring out that he's had a hand in this. I don't think they know what yet, but you
They
do.
just know he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, you do actually get the scene of Dan in the snowsuit, which is actually much better than in the movie, I have to say. So,
Yeah, it made me laugh. I want a snowsuit. Like, I want to go snowboarding in that owl suit.
yeah. But
So if anybody knows, like, one of those cosplay designer people,
So
let me know.
You just get some documents from president and CEO of Vike Industries, mainly about like action figures and nostalgia, perfume or whatever.
Which that's one of those things that's been popping up like in the background throughout the whole book. Is you'll see the word nostalgia on like random crap. That is one thing I noticed.
So the next issue, I mean, it's another one of those issues that jumps around a good bit, but the threads really start to come together in this book, and you really start to kind of get an idea of what all's going on. Um, Now, all of this happens while Laurie and John are still off planet, so that's one of the big deals in regards to that. Um, but you uncover that Adrian is in a pterodome or a biome or whatever, and Owlman or Night Owl. I keep saying Owlman. Night Owl and Rorschach
I keep wanting to say it too.
They they infiltrate the compound basically because they're allowed to, and you cut back over to the news guy for some more Black Freighter, and then Vite goes in and has a drink with everyone that's worked with him in this establishment. And in one frame, everyone's fine. And in the next frame, everyone's basically dead. So
That's really weird.
you find out that he's basically killing off everyone that he's employed to help engineer whatever his plan is, quote unquote. So once the guys get inside, they try and sneak up on Adrian, and he proceeds to basically manhandle the living piss out of them. He embarrasses the fuck out of them.
Which is a little shocking at this point because we've seen, both of them do some pretty impressive hand-to-hand combat, but
well, we've seen all three of them do pretty impressive things, but
yeah,
just the fact that it's not even really a contest. It's more of an afterthought that he's just thoroughly whipping the piss out of these guys. They
some cool shots too. Like he throws the whatever at like the lid of a jar or whatever at Night Owl's face.
yeah, breaks his nose.
Yeah.
Stops Rorschach from stabbing him in the back with a fork. But, this is the part where he unveils his master plan, and, Dan gets all heroic and says, "We'll stop you!" And then you get the infamous line, "What do you mean, do it? I'm not a Republic serial villain. You seriously think I'd explain my master stroke that there remained the slightest chance of you affecting the outcome? I did it 35 minutes ago." And it's at that point that everything goes white. And you get kind of you get a look into an interview with Vite at the end of the book. So that's, it's another interesting thing to look into. It talks about, some stuff with the comedian. It talks about old friends and crime fighters and whatnot. And, he basically comes across as like this super humble guy. Even though you just basically saw him orchestrate the end of the world.
A crazy maniac.
Yeah. So, as it stands, his plan has become reality at this point. We don't know what that entails, but it ends in this bright white light. at the end of the issue, and you're kind of left wondering, like, okay, what does this mean? And obviously, if you've read it or seen the movie, you know that this isn't quite the end. But we're pretty much at the end. Like, really, only thing left to do is wrap everything up. Sorry, using Cap as a euphemism for super soldier there. He's basically a peak human. Plus, he's enhanced from all his research. If I remember, he's more or less Captain America, only a high IQ sociopath instead of a good old American boy. Yeah, I wouldn't discount that at all.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty close.
Yeah. So all in all, I mean, but the ending is just, it's really strange, and you get kind of a call back to the silhouette being the only thing left when your shadows burn into eternity or whatever, like Hiroshima. So it's some really interesting imagery there, and it all gets blotted out by the snow or the flash or whatever. But
yeah,
now we get to the end, and
with the butthole tentacle monster.
Butthole tentacle monster, here we come.
That's what I'm dubbing it from now on.
I'm sure you are. So, you open up and you just see this massive amount of destruction, and then you start to see tentacles poking through things and windows, and then there's the butthole tentacle monster.
It's really weird. Like why are the tentacles just like stabbing into random shit?
I mean, because it basically teleported into this earth.
Yeah, fair enough.
And
it's still weird.
Thing is, Dr. Manhattan appears immediately after this happens. All the news headlines say war, question mark. You know, the static interference I noticed earlier makes everything so unpredictable. Obviously, it wasn't caused by a warhead detonation. So he goes into, realizing that something's going on. And then he teleports them to Ozymandias's lair or whatever. And he's following the tachyons basically to their source to figure out what's going on. And he chases down Vite, and he gets trapped in a machine that disassembles him just like he was when he first formed. And then Laurie tries to shoot him. He catches the bullet in some weird ninjutsu shit. But then Dr. Manhattan shows back up as a giant and grabs him, and he's like, you really think that you could harm me? You're no more dangerous to me than the world's smartest bug. And, then Vite points out his master plan was to stop war. And he relishes in his accomplishment. And Rorschach's just like, nah, fuck this. I'm gonna go tell people. Everybody's like, nah, you can't do that. We can't say anything if we want this to have any impact or any meaning. And Rorschach's like, nah, fuck that. I'm gonna go tell everybody.
Yeah, so, never compromise.
Even in the face of Armageddon. But John goes to stop him. Laurie and Dan do it again because apparently that's what you do in this time of strife and turmoil. And Rorschach's just like, I gotta go tell people. John's like, I can't let you do that. And he's like, of course not. You must protect the new utopia. One more body amongst Foundation makes a little difference. And he pulls his mask off and he's just bawling. And he's like screaming, do it! Do it! John just blows him right the fuck up. Makes him a red smudge. goes in and finds Dryberg and, Laurie humping, or spooning, I guess. Walks on some water, goes to talk to Adrian.
Post-hump.
Yeah, post-coitus, if you will.
Yeah.
And goes to talk to Adrian. And he's like, I'm gonna go do me on Mars because I'll create some life or something. It'll be great. And then he just disappears.
I'll create my own life with hookers and blackjack.
Right. And Sally Jupiter's hosting some people over at her house. Dan and is that Dan and no way, no. Is that
Dan and Laurie? Yeah.
as blondes?
The Aryan-looking couple.
Yeah, that's really weird. Oh wait, they changed their identities, didn't they?
Yeah, they changed. Yeah, it says he was Dan Dryberg.
Yeah, now they're Sam and
Sandra Hollins now.
Yeah, so they changed their identity. That's been too long.
And that means he's gonna have to dye his mustache.
Yeah, well,
which sounds like a pain in the ass. What if you get the dye in your mouth?
But it ends up one world, one accord. Posters are being put up. New York survivors reveal Nightmare under Havoc or whatever. And then somebody uncovers Rorschach's journal. And the book ends there. The book ends on the discovery of Rorschach's journal. Is it taken seriously? When it's revealed in the crank files of this New Frontiersman newspaper that nobody reads, or does the world stay harmonious? And all right, before I start ranting, I guess we should give our review of the book. What did you think?
Oh, this was a fantastic read. Super wordy. Definitely need more than a couple days to really do it justice. I'll probably go back through and reread it a little bit more casually so I can focus a little bit more on the background art and all that stuff. But as far as a philosophical early deconstruction of superheroes, this is definitely, I would say this is almost better than The Boys as far as superhero deconstructionism.
I would say without this we would have never had The Boys.
That's definitely that's true. But I think this is almost a little better just because of some of the character building of the actual heroes themselves.
Right.
You see it it's almost like an addiction for Dryberg and Laurie.
Yeah.
Right? Once they rediscover playing the hero game, it's almost an addiction for them and that kind of stuff. And
it's a compulsion for Rorschach as well.
Yeah. But with Rorschach, I would say it's more of for him, it's to the point that he's not even him. He's not Walter Kovac anymore. He is just Rorschach, because of how long he's been doing this, and all and his mother being a whore,
right,
and whatnot. So it's, I would say the actual philosophical deconstruction of the idea of superheroes, I think, is done better in this than The Boys. The overall story of The Boys, sure, is way more entertaining, but that actual premise of breaking down superheroes like into that sort of idea, I would say this is better.
I would say it was.
Personally,
I think what you're trying to get at is this feels more substantial.
yeah,
Like, to read 12 issues of this, you're left with. I just read a story about someone who survived the brink of World War III. Whereas when you read 12 issues of The Boys, you were like, that was an interesting story about what happened if superheroes were batshit crazy.
yeah,
Like, this feels more substantial. You don't have to suspend as much of your disbelief for reality because there were only two people with, like, special abilities, quote unquote, in this book.
yeah.
Everyone else was just, proficient with hand-to-hand combat or whatever. And I mean, it could even be argued that Vike, as the world's strongest man or the smartest man, wasn't necessarily super enhanced. He just was super able, I guess. But the only real Superman type person was Doc Manhattan. So, but like all good stories, they couldn't leave well enough alone, and comic books themselves have revisited Watchmen at least twice that I know of, because we have the Before Watchmen series that is much lengthier than the original series. I believe it's like 4 or 5 issue miniseries. And then you have Doomsday Clock, which is some way, shape, or form of introducing some of the Watchmen characters to the DC canon.
Which
Kind of
don't they
weird.
work better as not canon characters?
Well, I mean, not for the bottom line of DC sales.
Yeah, that's fair.
Spoiler alert for anybody who is interested in that. The Rorschach that they introduce is actually the son of the therapist that interviewed Walter Kovacs.
Which is weird, but all right.
But I don't know. As far as a rating for this book, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite stories that, it's one of my favorite, I don't know, absolute must have to read list or whatever. Like, something that, what do they call that? Recommended reading list. This is near the top of that recommended reading list. If you're if you're trying to get into comics and you want to see the capability of the format, this is definitely something you should pick up. The themes the themes that it encapsulates, some of the just downright storytelling, the ability to take the veneer off of a genre and make it something that just utterly just epic and breathtaking in one fell swoop. I mean, you've got a story that stretches over 12 issues that gets deep into the heart of 6 to 7 characters and crafts a world around it that leaves itself open to the imagination of, like, I'm pretty sure this is what they did with Before Watchmen. It just wasn't well received, but I would be interested in knowing the story of some of the Minutemen's adventures,
Yeah, that'd be super interesting. I mean, Rorschach as a character, I think, is probably the most intriguing to me. I mean, some dude in just a suit and trench coat and a mask. He breaks into people's houses and eats their food while he waits for them to come back so he can question them. I mean, how can you not like that character? Right?
Well, Rorschach's kind of a throwback to what the pre-superhero hero was. The first masked adventurer is typically accredited to being the Clock, which was a guy in a suit with a mask on.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of like the Shadow and some of those characters.
Yeah. He's very reminiscent of the Question as well. If you've read DC Comics recently, you might be familiar with the Question. But I don't know. All in all, this is something that I would definitely recommend anybody trying to get into comics at least take a look at. If you liked the movie, um, the book is it's one of the few times that the book and the movie are almost on par with being good. The book, I think, just adds more to the story.
And a little bit more crazy.
Yeah, but now you said on Twitter, good job, Rob, said that we should talk about some of the things that are just all too wrong with the show, which I understand season premiered tonight. So
Oh,
I
did
think,
it?
yeah, I think we can definitely do that.
Man, we are playing that algorithm good. Look at that. It's almost
But,
like we knew what we were doing.
but I never changed the title for this fucking thing. We are obviously not,
Oh. Well, I thought we were.
but we, yeah, I can't really judge the show except on what I've heard. But from what I've heard, it's being used to tackle white supremacy, which I don't understand.
Uh,
Um, it's being used in a way that someone has come out and said, someone very close to the project has come out and said that nostalgia was toxic, which I don't.
what?
Yeah, I don't understand where that comes from. I think at this point we're just saying things to try and be as outlandish and provocative as we possibly can be, and that that's no good. The themes that
So,
were talked about in this book,
wait. So, if you sit around with like your buddies from college or high school or something, having some beers and like, reminiscing about old times, that's white
that's toxic.
supremacy?
No, that's toxic.
Toxic?
Yeah, it's
Toxic,
only
sorry.
white supremacy if you're white and you do that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it just I don't know, like the idea that those are the selling points of a show, like the divisive politics of something. Um, that's exactly what the opposite of this book was about. This book was about a guy deciding to make the ultimate sacrifice of essentially selling his soul to murder millions of people to save the fucking world. Um, now, were there some interesting like points in there that could be depicted as racism? Sure. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessary for the jive talk from the kid who was reading the comic book. Um, but in the
I mean,
end,
it made an interesting dynamic between him and the newsstand guy, though.
right, in the end, the guy's like, life's too short. Take the comic here. You can have my cap too. And that kid hung out. And at a certain point in the book, that newsstand guy saves that kid's life. I don't know if you caught that. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's like issue 10 or 11 that newsstand guy saves that kid's life during one of those cutaway sequences.
Yeah, it was like in the background a little bit.
Yeah. So,
Right.
to say that this book had an undertone of racism, um, I feel like you can say that about anything and make a valid argument for it because you could say anything from the fact that I don't like the way that the people of color were presented in this book to the fact that I don't like that the people of color weren't represented in this book. I, I don't think that this is the medium you need, or this is the story that you need to attack for being quote unquote racist and problematic. And I definitely don't see how you make a series based on this work without keeping it very political because, everything from the fact that the president's run multiple terms to the fact that we're on the brink of nuclear holocaust. Everything is
And
very
that's Richard
political.
Nixon.
Yeah, it's very political. It's very divisive in that regard.
But even then, not really.
Well, you get what I'm saying, though, because, I mean, it's basically got a conservative overtone to it. You know, everything's almost pro-war except for the people trying to stop World War III. So, I mean, I'm gonna check the first issue out. Yeah, I think the director said that. Knox says. I'm gonna check the first episode out. Oh, what did I say? Issue. I feel like you've gotten me sick over the internet. My nose has been stopped up since we started this fucking show.
I mean, it's possible.
It's also entirely too hot in here, and I hate you for that. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to take a look at the first issue, first episode, whatever the fuck, and I'll draw an inference from that, but I don't have high hopes, and I'm not going in with any explanation or any expectations whatsoever.
Yeah, I'll probably check it out too.
I think if you want a good Watchmen adaptation, one already exists. But honestly, I feel like the story stands well enough on its own and needs no auxiliary material. Like, you don't need another series. You don't need a sequel.
Right.
The work stands on its own over time, because this was written in, what, 86, I believe? And it still reads well today.
Let's see.
I fired him twice this week.
Issue 12 was 87.
I fired him twice.
Why am I getting fired?
Knox pointing out that I haven't fired you at all this week. I think well, it is Sunday. Hey. He's right, though. It's Sunday. I haven't fired you this week.
Come on, Knox. I thought we were bros. What the hell?
I mean, you are. I'm sure you're the fan. Unfortunately, though. Ayrton.
Yeah.
You're fired, buddy.
Damn it. I'm going to go out on the street and walk around with a sign that says the end is near now.
And just be back for the show tomorrow and you're fine.
Oh, I just thought of something that could make a funny video.
What's that?
Probably a horrible idea, though. So, I live close to a General Motors plant.
Yeah.
And all of those annoy, auto workers. They're on strike for some stupid reason right now.
Okay.
And they're all standing out there with their gay little signs and shit. I hate unions, by the way. I'll just outright say that. But that would be kind of funny if I had somebody film me walking around their picket line just with a sign that says the end is near.
The end is nigh.
Yeah, with all of their, signs or whatever. Just walk around with one of those just to see what they do. That'd be entertaining.
I mean, we're probably going to get banned off YouTube for this, but it would be even funnier if you did it in an abortion clinic.
Well, the only reason I thought of the auto union thing is because I just drove past them today and just rolled my eyes like, oh, you knowing ass, you fucking communists, get back to work. You're costing GM like $100,000 a week.
Well, I mean, they could probably get out of that for $50K if they just redistribute it to their employees.
Yeah. But anyways, I like that abortion clinic thing.
That was a joke. That was a joke. The joke.
Whatever I do on my own personal channel has nothing to do with the Gospel of Comics. Gospel of Comics does not endorse any of my personal shenanigans.
Basically. I appreciate that.
There was that. Was that good?
That was good.
Did I read that right? Okay.
But no, I do like that this is one of those books that, like I said, it stands the test of time. I think it's 1986 this came out. So we are, what, 33 years into the future from this being written, and it still shows up on a recommended read list nearly everywhere you look. When 9/11 happened, there were people protesting the way my brother and I had made signs that said shit like bombs over Baghdad. The protesters got so pissed at us. Fantastic. But I don't know. I think that's about all we got this week. We did some videos. Ayrton's going to be editing those. Those will roll out later this week whenever he finishes and cuts out all the dead air for the remaining 3 minutes and 15 seconds worth of video. But
You know, I might throw in some sound effects for shits and giggles.
yeah, but we'll see how that turns out. We'll
like
have those rolling out, and we'll be taking all the criticism on those. But we definitely appreciate everybody that showed up and sat through the Watchmen with us. Final thoughts on it. It's a great book.
Definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
Don't try and sit down and read it all at once. You're not going to do that. It's going to take you at least a week.
Well, to
read through this book, to really
enjoy
absorb it properly.
Yeah, to enjoy it, you're going to want to read it over a couple of days. I wouldn't say a week, but yeah, you're going to need to read it over a couple of days. Probably a 3-day, couple hours a day, just sitting down, picking up 2 or 3 issues a day.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more like, like an issue or 2 a night, like after work or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely something you want to kind of reflect on. You want to think about how it all kind of pieces together. You're going to want to go back and look at the early issues when you finish the later issues.
Now, do we want to touch on the movie at all real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because I started watching it today. I have like 20 minutes left. It's a long ass movie.
It's a long ass book.
But I will have to agree with what Church said. Definitely, as far as a comic book adaptation goes, it's like spot on. I mean, obviously, there's a few things changed here and there. Some of the like the overcutting of different scenes is kind of split up a little bit differently, but you kind of have to do that for the screen versus a comic book.
Yeah, the Black Freighter. That entire story is cut out. You don't get any of the Black Freighter in the movie, but
you see the kid reading it a bit, and you get shots of like the book.
Yeah,
and him reading it. That's about it.
But yeah, you don't get the full experience, and I don't think you need it because the whole idea of the monster isn't, it isn't in the movie. The ending is one of the major differences, like we've been talking about the whole time. But instead of a giant squid monster, you get a bunch of explosions all over the planet, right? Have you gotten to that part yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
But that's okay. You cut out for a second when you said that, so I didn't actually hear what you said.
Oh. Basically, Shaquille O'Neal basically is the giant squid monster in the movie.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I can see that.
How's it going, Cartoon?
You always show up at the end, don't you, buddy?
Well, it technically would still be early, but...
Yeah.
No, and what you said about casting earlier...
Yeah.
The casting director for this fucking movie...
Casting is perfect.
Yeah. The characters...
That person needs to win an Oscar just for casting.
Yeah.
This movie.
The guy that played Rorschach perfect. Guy that plays Dryberg, perfect. The guy that plays Silk Spectre, perfect. Even the guy that plays the comedian, perfect. And it was a meme role
Yeah.
for him because he died in the beginning. That's the same guy that played the dad on Weeds that died in the first episode.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Okay, I was wondering why he looked familiar. I was like, where have I seen this guy before?
Oh, cartoon. Don't worry about it, buddy. Ayrton, just busting your balls.
I'm just,
We
yeah,
love
I'm
we
just
love
messing
having
with
you here, man. Thanks for stopping by as usual.
Just
But
go mash that like button.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But no,
But yeah, the casting, the only one that was off really was the midget gangster guy in the prison.
yeah.
But you know, how many actors that size are there?
I mean, you could have gotten Peter Dinklage.
When did the movie come out? Because was he really like?
He was younger.
thing?
He was much younger when the movie came out.
Okay. Because I didn't know about him until Game of Thrones became popular, so I don't know if he really did anything before that.
Well, who the hell knows? But anyway, I think that's about all I got. No, anything else you wanted to bring up? We could probably figure out what we're going to read from Alan Moore next.
Yeah, we should do that.
I want something
I don't
shorter.
want to pick anymore.
Yeah, no, I kind of want something shorter.
I don't want to pick anymore.
No, I want you to pick. I like it when you pick. The chat likes it when you pick.
I'm scared of Alan Moore now, though.
As you should be. He did The Killing Joke. We could do that. That's a shorter book.
Yeah.
Plus, it'll lead into. He was an elf. Yes, he was. The comedian was an elf. But yeah, we'll be doing The Killing Joke over the next week or so.
I think I've only seen the elf like once because I hate Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay. But we'll be doing The Killing Joke over the next week or so and wrap up the Alan Moore saga because we have to do I Love Halloween. No, we already did I Love Halloween,
right.
didn't we? Did we?
No.
Okay. Okay. We looked at it because it was Keith Giffen, but yeah, we'll have to do I Love Halloween.
Yeah, looked at it.
That'll probably be our Halloween episode, and then figure out what we're doing going forward. But
you know, after Alan Moore month is over, I'm gonna shower for like 3 days straight.
Oh, Peter Dinklage was an elf.
Oh. Again, I've seen it like once.
So, anyway. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by. Thanks, everybody who liked, shared, all that other nonsense. Thanks for checking out the videos as they come out. Ayrton, you're my new best friend. Oh, God, I thought I was alone in my hatred of a 2-bit hack. Who's a 2-bit hack?
Thank you.
Oh, Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell.
Huh.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm even partially okay with him. The only reason I'm even partially okay with him is he kind of looks like the drummer for Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay. I mean, so the only movie I like with him is Talladega Nights, but that's just because it was the first movie I saw that he was in. And every other movie, he plays the same damn character in every single movie.
Anchorman is my guilty Will Ferrell pleasure.
It's literally the same thing, just with a different paint job.
Yeah.
It's just, it gets old. Anyways, thank you, Ibrock, because most people, I felt the same way. You're my new favorite in the chat there.
So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get the fuck out of here so I can finally go blow my nose. And me
too.
Again, we want to thank you guys for coming out. like, share, subscribe. Make sure you keep an eye out. We're going to start releasing some shorter form videos where we go over some individual issues. We got some really interesting ones to look at this coming week. Arm Fall Off Boy and Danny the Street, their origin issues. I'm interested to see what Ayrton does with these videos, so look forward to those.
I'm interested to see what I do with them too. What do you mean?
I see a lot of unemployment in your future. But with that, thanks again, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Okay. I always have to ask if you're going to say it.